Now, with so much talk on social distancing, we'll turn to a story on social solidarity. We'll hear about organizations and people around the country going the extra mile to care for their communities when the government won't. Turn on the TV at any given hour, and they'll have you believing that coronavirus has plunged the world into a nightmare, an all-out every person for themselves scenario, where the only way to protect yourself is to hoard canned food and toilet paper. And whatever bad behavior might be out there, it's important that we know about the other reality we're seeing during this pandemic, which is the inspiring degree to which people are coming together and supporting each other. People are trying to provide for and help each other as the government is clearly failing to do this. Almost right away, spontaneously, people around the country and around the world sprung into action to provide for those most vulnerable, whether they were elderly, sick, or just having trouble getting around. Notices appeared by people's doors asking about their needs and offering the services to fill them. Some folks even made surveys asking their neighbors if they needed help with groceries or filing for unemployment. Others turned to social media to offer assistance with childcare to parents who are still being forced to work. Countless fundraisers have gone up to get things to people free of charge, understanding the extremely tight finances of so many working and poor people who are just trying to get through this crisis. Hundreds of petitions have circulated on social media to demand paid sick leave for temporary workers who are otherwise being sent home empty-handed. Breakthrough News was able to talk to organizers in Philadelphia about ongoing efforts there.
We've collected a lot of names and built relationships with people through the course of our struggle against gentrification and unfair development in the neighborhood. And those seniors and people affected with chronic illnesses who are already at risk of unsafe demolition practices having to do with poor dust control are now going to be receiving drop-offs of free groceries and essential goods from our organization. And in that way, we hope to alleviate some of the pressure that people are feeling, economic pressure and public health pressure in this period of crisis. Well, some of our members have been isolating and cutting down contact as much as possible in order to be as safe as possible to be bringing out groceries to people who are at risk. We've got donations from the community already. We've reached out to restaurants and coffee shops that we have pre-existing relationships with who are more than happy to give us donations. Like today I picked up, I think, 15 gallons of milk and a couple tubs of yogurt to bring to people. And we're stockpiling goods, especially non-perishable goods, in our community center that we run in Kensington called the Philadelphia Liberation Center. I mean, I would love to live in a society where the government is going around and bringing groceries to people. That'd be a lot more sanitary than forcing like thousands of people to go to grocery stores where the sanitation practices are completely ad hoc and not mandated by any central authority. But unfortunately, that's not the case. People, working class people, poor people, really are forced in a moment like this to take care of our own. And so that's what we're going to do in Kensington and other areas of Philly.
Campaigns have begun to join with segments of the population whose needs and voices are often shut out, and particularly those experiencing homelessness and those who are incarcerated. These are people who can't practice social distancing in their current situation. In Los Angeles, homeless families have taken over empty homes owned by a public agency, and community members are standing with them to protect against evictions and call for housing to be provided for everyone who needs it now to help keep everyone safe. Breakthrough News takes you to the scene.
So for myself, I was living in Los Angeles 3 years ago in Boyle Heights, and I was paying $1,200 a month. I left the country and I came back 2 years later to find out that the rent had increased tremendously and I was unable to afford the rent. So then my daughters and I ended up staying with my mom for a bit in a crowded room, and then we ended up couch surfing and sleeping in different friends and family homes. I have a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old daughter, and we have been doing this for a year and a half. So when I found out about Moms for Housing in Oakland, I was really inspired by them. And I started asking friends, can we do this in LA? I want to do something like this in LA, not only for myself, but for other families. These were moms that were brave enough to break the law in some ways to provide safety for their children, and they were like my inspiration. To me, solidarity looks like it has many forms. We understand the pandemic and some of the precautions we need to take, so we ask elders to please not come and support in other ways because they are the most vulnerable. We also sanitize our doorknobs every hour and try to keep up washing our hands and our hygiene in general. Yes, we do have also rapid response in case of evacuation, and we have a GoFundMe, and just to please keep up with our website and the different social medias we have. I want to let people know that we can't wait for government to do things for us. There's families waiting in shelters for 3 years to be housed while the state is hoarding these houses. To me, that's immoral and unacceptable, and that's why I'm calling for community. If the government's taking too long to meet the needs of the people, then the people need to form community and take matters into their own hands, because this is justice. They're the ones that are committing a crime by hoarding these houses where there's so many people on the streets. I tell this to everyone in the media and a lot of people I meet, that to me it's ludicrous how the homeless and unhoused population has grown in this state, because when I was growing up, I knew where Skid Row was. Skid Row was just a couple of streets in downtown LA. And now the whole state of California has become a Skid Row.
Around the world, people are coming together in all sorts of ways as well. In Brazil, scheduled protests against the far right-wing president, Jair Bolsonaro, could not take place, but that didn't keep the people silent. Huge numbers of Brazilians took to their windows and banged pots and pans to show their opposition, not only to Bolsonaro's policies, but his reckless behavior in the face of the virus itself. Take a look. Cultural workers are playing an important role in uplifting the spirits of those on the front lines, understanding that you can't win a war, including a war against a virus, without high morale. In China, symphony musicians performed virtually via web conference and dedicated the performance to the medical professionals in Wuhan. In Italy, which has received 35 tons of Chinese medical supplies and doctors, people played the Chinese national anthem, as well as their own anthem, out of their apartment windows while under quarantine, shouting, "Thanks, China." Grazie, China! Grazie! Italy is becoming particularly well known for quarantine videos involving music. All in all, one thing is clear. Even in a time of social distancing, social solidarity is strong.